things that feel distant or disconnected?" I asked. "Not at all," Shalom said. "Your thoughts influence all other people and all existence. Your emotions send waves through the universe. That is why love is so powerful. It is the highest frequency of unity, and why hatred is so destructive. It creates the illusion of division. If you truly understood this, you would never see another being as separate from yourself," he said. The fire between us crackled softly, as if affirming his words. The law of vibration Shalom closed his eyes for a moment, then spoke again. "Have you ever felt the power of sound? A song that lifted your spirit, a chant that resonated through your body? Do you know why many cultural functions and spiritual practices are animated by songs? I thought of the ancient hymns sung in temples, of the rhythmic drumming of African ceremonies, of the deep hum of monks in meditation." "Yes," I said. "It feels like energy moving through me. It gives me a great life feeling," I said. "That is the law of vibration at work," Shalom said. "Everything in existence is in motion. The universe itself is a symphony of frequencies. The Dogon people of Mali believe that creation began with a sacred sound Nemo, the divine word. This aligns with what the Bible says. In the beginning was the Word. John 1:1. The Egyptians understood this too. Ra's divine energy was said to manifest through vibration and light, Shalom. Bick explained. "So, even my thoughts and emotions have a frequency?" I asked. Shalom nodded. "Absolutely. Love, gratitude, and joy vibrate at higher frequencies. Fear, anger, and hatred resonate at lower ones. This is why certain spiritual practices, chanting, drumming, meditation, are so powerful. They tune you to the highest frequencies, aligning you with divine energy. The Yoruba Oric, the sacred praise poetry, is not just words, it is vibration shaping reality. So are the mantras of the yogis, or the instrumentals used in places of worship," he said. I placed a hand over my heart. "Then, if I want to change my reality, I must change my vibration?" I asked. Shalom's eyes gleamed. "Now you are beginning to understand that at all times be aware about your energy and how it is vibrating." He guided. "The law of correspondence, you have heard about this sacred truth. As above, so below. As within, so without." Shalom spoke the words like a sacred incantation. I recognized them immediately. "That's from the Kabbalion, right?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "But this law is even older. It is woven into the foundations of existence. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. The universe is mirrored in you, just like the lake or ocean is in every drop of water in it," Shalom said. I frowned slightly. "Are you saying we always knew this?" Asked. "In African cosmology," Shalom continued, "the Akan people see the human being as a smaller version of the universe itself. The Yoruba say that your Ori, your higher self, is a reflection of Olodumari's divine intelligence. The ancient Egyptians inscribed Know Thyself on the walls of the Temple of Luxor, because to truly understand yourself is to understand the universe. And as you know, traditional Egyptian mysteries originate from knowledge of Katara peoples, he said. I let out a breath, the realization settling in. So the struggles, the lessons, they're not random. They're reflections of what's happening within me. I probed. Exactly, Shalom said. If there is chaos in your outer world, look within. If there is peace within, it will manifest outward. That is why spiritual mastery begins not by controlling the outside, but by mastering the self. Being conscious of what you feel inside of you, so it can, in due time, manifest. What you think about and feel at all times better be that which you want to experience as reality, he continued. Bridging science and ancient wisdom, I leaned forward, eager to connect everything he had shared. And what about science? How does all of this align with what we know from science today? I asked. Shalom's expression softened. Quantum physics has begun to confirm what our ancestors always knew. The observer effect proves that consciousness shapes reality. The multiverse theory suggests that multiple timelines exist simultaneously, just as the Yoruba believe in Oran, the spiritual world, and I, the physical world. And the law of energy conservation tells us that energy can never be created, destroyed, only transformed. This aligns with the African understanding of the eternal nature of the soul, he said. I shook my head in amazement. So science is only now catching up to what spiritual traditions have always taught, I wondered. Shalom smiled. Yes, because truth is eternal. It only takes humanity time to remember, or for your so-called science to prove, he said. The power of alignment. Tai stared into the flames of the fire lighting between us, feeling my entire perspective shift. If all these laws are at work, then the key to a fruitful life is aligning with them, I said, as if remembering from my deep knowledge reservoir. Shalom nodded. Alignment is everything. Look at history. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, yet emerged not with hatred, but with love. He embodied the law of oneness and the law of vibration, and in doing so, he changed the world, Shalom said. A deep silence stretched between us, not empty, but full of understanding, of connection, of something ancient stirring awake. Finally, I looked at Shalom and asked, So what do I do now? He smiled knowingly. You live in alignment. You remember that you are not separate from the divine, but a reflection of it. But you speak words of power. You vibrate with love, and you recognize that the universe is already within you, for you to reflect it well in the physical. Shalom said. I exhaled, my heart expanding with the truth. The fire crackled, the wind whispered through the trees, and the stars pulsed above. And in that moment I understood Dai was not just learning about the cosmos. I was remembering that I was part of it. Of all that I have experienced, this journey is not about seeking something outside of us, but remembering what we have always been, the living expression of God in human form. Shalom confirmed. Chapter 5. Unveiling the forces that shape existence. And the soul, we sat quietly for some good minutes. The fire crackled softly between us, its golden embers rising like tiny messengers into the night sky. The air was thick with the scent of earth, a grounding presence beneath the vast celestial dome. A soft wind carried what felt like whispers of unseen forces, stirring something deep within me, knowing that I was on the edge of a great understanding. Shalom sat in his usual composed manner, his gaze steady, as though he could see beyond the physical world into the hidden forces that governed all things. He watched me with patient curiosity, sensing the question forming in my mind before I even spoke. "Shalom," I began, adjusting my posture. "I've heard of the elements before: earth, water, fire, and air, but I always thought of them as just parts of nature. What do they have to do with spiritual awakening?" I asked. Shalom's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "Ah," he said, leaning slightly forward, "this is where many misunderstand the nature of creation. These elements are not merely physical substances. They are the fundamental forces that shape existence itself. To truly awaken, you must embody them not just in theory, but in the very essence of your being. The sages, the mystics, the alchemists of old, they all understood that creation is structured upon these primordial elements. They are the keys to transformation, the building blocks of divine reality," Shalom said. I listened intently as the wind carried the scent of distant rain, a subtle reminder of nature's ever-present power. Earth, the foundation of being, Shalom, reached down and grabbed a handful of soil, letting the grains slip between his fingers. "Earth," he said, "is the foundation of all life. It is stability, nourishment, and the plane upon which all things manifest." He gestured toward the trees surrounding us. "The tree that stands strong in the storm does so because its roots run deep. Likewise, your spiritual strength depends on your foundations. Without grounding, without stability, your journey becomes unsteady," he said. I thought of the times I had felt lost, unanchored. "How do I cultivate this stability?" I asked. Shalom's voice was gentle yet firm. "By deepening your connection to your own essence." In Kemet, Geb was the divine force that anchored creation to the material world. Among some of the Bantu communities, Kalunga represents the boundary between the physical and spiritual realms. To be spiritually stable, you must be rooted through meditation, ritual, or even something as simple as walking barefoot on the earth. The kingdom of God is within you, but to access it, you must first be grounded in your being, he said. Shalom's words settled in me like a stone sinking into still water. On reflection, I wondered about the fact that earth and heart are the same word, with the re of one letter. I knew, like the heart, is the center of humans' ethereal existence. The earth must be a great center of physical life. Water, the flow of emotion and intuition. A soft drizzle began to fall, each drop catching the fire's glow, before disappearing into the earth. Shalom tilted his head toward the sky. "Water," he said, "is emotion, intuition, and the flow of life itself. It is the wisdom of the soul, the fluidity of existence. In Yoruba tradition, Yemkir governs the waters, carrying the mysteries of the ocean within her depths, he said. I watched the raindrops disappear into the soil, merging effortlessly. Water adapts, I murmured. Shalom nodded approvingly. Exactly. Water never fights its obstacles. It moves around them, over them, through them. And yet, in its persistence, it reshapes the hardest stone. So, too, must you learn to flow with life rather than resist it, he said. A memory surfaced times when I had fought against circumstances, resisting the currents that sought to guide me, including my unavoidable journey into spiritual understanding, and mastery, as opposed to focusing on my successful career in multimedia journalism, lecturing, and consultancy. It hasn't been easy, but what about pain? How does one flow when the current is heavy with sorrow? I asked. Shalom's gaze softened. Pain is not meant to break. It is meant to purify. The Dogon say that Namo, the celestial beings, came from the stars in watery form to seed the earth with wisdom. Likewise, your tears, your struggles, are not without purpose. They carve wisdom into the soul. Be like water, my friend, move, adapt, and trust that all things are leading you toward transformation, he said. I closed my eyes and let the drizzles kiss my skin, feeling its truth. Fire, the power of transformation. A sudden gust of wind caused the fire to rise, its flames licking hungrily at the air. Shalom's voice carried over the crackling embers. Fire is destruction, but it is also renewal. It is the force of purification, willpower, and divine transformation, he said. I watched the flames dance wildly. But fire burns, I said cautiously. Shalom smiled. Yes, but only that which no longer serves. In Kemet, Sekhmet was both the destroyer and the healer. Her fire could ravage, but it could also cleanse. The Bantu recognize fire as a link to the ancestors, a guiding light in the darkness, he said. I thought of those who had faced great trials and emerged stronger. So, suffering is the fire that refines us? I asked. Shalom's eyes burned with intensity. Exactly. Look at Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison. Yet he emerged as a beacon of peace. His fire did not consume him. It transformed him. The flames, revive, are not your enemy. They are your initiation into higher power. If you are aware of this fact, he said, the fire before us blazed higher, as if confirming his word. I wondered why in the Catholic Church they light a fire during Mass, why fire is ever burning in Banyoro Kitara Kingdom Compound, and why many shrines I see in movies have an ever-burning fire. Air, the breath of consciousness, say, cool breeze, please swept through the clearing, carrying the scent of wet earth and burning wood. Shalom inhaled deeply. Air, he said, is thought, inspiration, and divine breath. It is the unseen force that moves all things, he said. I closed my eyes and felt the wind on my skin. It's everywhere, I murmured. Yes, Shalom said, like the breath of Uma, the supreme creator in Dogon belief, or Shu, the Kemetic deity who held the heavens aloft. Air is the voice of the divine, the whisper of intuition, the thoughts that shape reality. Shalom said. I opened my eyes. Then our thoughts, they carry power, I wondered. Shalom's gaze locked onto mine. They are creation itself. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear its sound, but you do not know where it comes from or where it goes. Your thoughts move like the wind unseen, yet shaping everything in their path. Master them, and you master reality, he said, as if delivering a masterpiece. A deep stillness settled over me. The fifth element, ether, the divine thread Shalom, lifted his gaze toward the heavens. And beyond them all, he said, is ether, the spirit, the force that binds all things together. It is Ace in Yoruba, Ka in Kemet, Moya in Bantu cosmology. It is the breath of the divine, he concluded. I felt something stir within me, an ancient memory awakening. It's what connects us to the universe, I whispered. Shalom's voice was barely above a breath. It is what you are, he said. I stared at him, realization washing over me. Then, awakening isn't about becoming something new. It's about remembering what I have always been, I said. Shalom smiled, the firelight dancing in his eyes. Plot, yes. And now, you are beginning to remember, he declared. I closed my eyes, feeling the earth beneath me. The rain drops upon my skin, the fire's warmth, the whispering wind, and the infinite presence that held them all together. I was not separate from creation, and I became aware I am creation itself. Chapter 6. Unraveling the eternal path of consciousness. The night sky stretched infinitely above us, its depth an endless ocean of stars. The gentle rustling of leaves whispered secrets carried by the wind, as if nature itself was eavesdropping on our conversation. The fire before us flickered, casting shifting shadows on the ground, mirroring the movement of souls through time, never still, never truly gone, always in motion. Shalom sat with his usual serene expression, his presence grounding yet vast, as if he held the knowledge of the cosmos in the silence between his words. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of a grandeur moment. There was in me a need to know life beyond the physical form. Shalom, I began, my voice barely above a whisper. What happens to the soul after death? Do we just vanish? I asked. His eyes gleamed in the firelight. Ah, he said, a knowing smile forming the great question of existence. You have felt it, haven't you? The sense that you are more than this body, more than this single lifetime, he asked. I nodded. Yes. Sometimes I feel as though I've lived before, as though certain places, certain people are familiar. Actually, I have some clear memories. Two of my previous life, where one, my so-called stepmother's, was my mother. Shalom leaned forward slightly. That is because the soul is eternal. It is not bound by time the way the physical world is. It moves through dimensions, through lifetimes, gathering wisdom, shaping experience, and evolving toward divine unity, he said. I shivered, not from the cold, but from the magnitude of his words. the soul's eternal nature and cycles of rebirth. The soul, Shalom continued, is like a river flowing, merging, and reshaping itself as it journeys toward the infinite ocean. Different traditions have described this journey in many ways, but the truth remains the same. Consciousness is never lost, only transformed. Just as we said about energy, it can never be lost or destroyed, just transformed, Shalom said. He reached for a stick and traced a spiral in the dirt. In Hinduism, this cycle is called samsara, the wheel of birth, death, and rebirth. They believe karma, the law of cause and effect, governs it, ensuring that every action, every intention, shapes the soul's future path. If one sows seeds of wisdom, they will reap enlightenment. If one sows seeds of ignorance, they will return to learn again. Shalom lectured. I thought about the struggles and joys of life. So everything we do echoes into future lifetimes. I inquired, precisely. And it is not really about lifetimes, as it is about timelines. That is to say, what you chose to experience, when and how, Shalom said. And not just in Hinduism. The Bantu people speak of the ever-turning wheel, where ancestors return to complete their unfinished work. The Yoruba teach that souls are guided by their ori, their divine destiny, which determines the lessons they must learn. He said with ease, like he knew everything there is to know. Shalom leaned forward, picked up a handful of dirt, and let it slip through his fingers. In Kemet, the Ka and Batha, spirit and personality of the soul, continue their journey beyond death. Weighed against Mart, the principle of truth and balance. If a soul has lived in harmony, it ascends to the next level. If not, it returns to correct its path, he said. I exhaled slowly, my mind turning to my current lifetime and people I have heard the pleasure to impact and be impacted by, and wondering if and how they lived in a past life. So, life is not a straight line, it's a cycle, I asked. Shalom chuckled softly. More than that, tense and intricate choreography of divine intelligence unfolding through time, he said. Ancestral wisdom and the Akashic records that. Fire crackled as he continued, while shifting the wood pieces more into the center. I wondered whether he was an ancestor or a future person in my timeline. Many believe that when we leave this world, we are forgotten. But in African spiritual traditions, the ancestors are very much alive. In Yoruba, they are called Igond, the spirits of the departed who continue to guide the living. Shalom said. I frowned. So, the dead aren't truly gone. In school, they used to teach us about Africans' beliefs that recite the dead are not dead, I said. Not at all, Shalom said. The Dogon people of Mali teach that ancestors communicate through dreams and visions. The Akan say, we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And this wisdom is not unique to Africa. In esoteric traditions, there is a belief in the Akashic records, vast library of the soul's history, where all memories, all lives, all knowledge is stored. Shalom said. I sat up straighter as I pondered about how some people get to be able to tell the future and past of others. Is that why some people have memories of past lives, or even the future? I asked. Shalom nodded. Exactly. Some people tap into the Akashic field unknowingly, through meditation, deep prayer, or even moments of déjà vu. And there are those, like shamans and spiritual elders, who have trained themselves to access this wisdom intentionally. A healer in Ghana, for example, might enter a trance state and retrieve lost knowledge from the ancestors to heal someone in the present. He said. I stared at the flames, the flickering embers feeling like echoes of lives before mine. It was, tell you how to, interesting to no one can ask their ancestors for knowledge on how to solve a current challenge or respond in a given situation. The soul, spirit, and higher self. When I thought all had been explained to me clearly, I saw Shalom place his hand on his chest to navigate the journey through dimensions. You must understand the three aspects of the self, the soul, the spirit, and the higher self, he said. He held up 3 fingers. The soul is the traveler, shaped by experience. The spirit is the breath of life, the universal force that connects all beings. And the higher self, this is the divine intelligence, guiding your path. The aspect of you that sees beyond illusions of the present physical life you are experiencing. Shalom, said I, furrowed my brow. And when we feel lost, which teachings or religion can best guide us? I asked. Shalom smiled. It means you have forgotten to listen. In Yoruba belief, to commune with your Ori Inu, your higher self, is to receive clarity. In Kemet, living in alignment with Ma truth, balance, order ensures a smooth journey. In Buddhism, enlightenment comes when one realizes their true nature. Beyond the illusions of the material world, he said. I let his words sink in. So, the answers are always within the individual? I asked. Shalom nodded. Yes, but you must learn to quiet the noise in the world and listen. To go within, as Jesus the Christ taught. You have to go within, into your secret room, and there you can talk to your Father. The source of all, he said. The dimensions of existence I stared into, the vast night sky, my thoughts stretching beyond the limits of my understanding. If the soul moves through dimensions, what are these realms? I asked. Shalom's voice was steady. Some call them planes of existence, others higher realms. In Islam, the concept of barzakh is an intermediate dimension where souls await resurrection. In Judaism, the Kabbalistic tree of life describes multiple spiritual dimensions leading to divine unity. In Taoism, the Tao is the ever-flowing cosmic force that moves through all levels of existence. He said with finality. I took a deep breath. And where are we now? I asked. Shalom gestured to the earth beneath us. In the realm of learning, this Bizo with a soul comes to refine itself, to remember its divine origin. But beyond this there are higher planes, where the soul is freed from illusion and dwells in pure consciousness. He said, the journey of remembrance, silence settled between us. deep and sacred. I felt the weight of something ancient and profound. My existence was not an accident, that my soul had been traveling long before this lifetime. Shalom's voice was gentle. You are not lost. You are simply remembering, he said. I exhaled, feeling something shift inside me. The lesson was clear. The past was not behind me. The future was not ahead. It is all within. I closed my eyes and felt it, the vastness of my soul stretching across lifetimes, across dimensions, moving toward something greater, something infinite. And in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. Limitless. Chapter 7. Life as a Divine Schoolers. I looked forward to the night turning into a clear morning. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth as the evening breeze rustled through the trees. The sky above was a canvas of deep blues and purples, painted with the last traces of fading moonlight. Shalom and I sat by the quiet shore of Lake Mutanzij. There was a gentle flow of water flowing from up the small river off the mountain to the lake, mirroring the rhythm of existence itself, ever moving, ever changing, ever teaching. I turned to him, my mind heavy with questions. Shalom, why does life feel so unpredictable, time-changing? Why different times in one place and another? One moment there's joy, the next there's suffering. Sometimes it feels like Shalom smiled knowingly, his eyes reflecting the firelight. Ah, my friend, that is because there is really no time. It is you creating and allocating the time. Do you think the soil, the water, the air, the fire, or even plants count time? As for the uneven life you experience, you have to know that life is a test, or rather, a school. You see, Earth is not just a place where we exist. It is where we learn. Every experience, whether blissful or painful, is a lesson designed to bring you closer to your highest self, he said. I remembered a question many of my brothers and sisters usually ask, and I decided to pass it on to this guru of high. But why can't learning be easy? Why must suffering be part of it? I asked. He leaned back, gazing at the sky as if the sky held the answer. Because without contrast, there is no growth. Without darkness, how would you recognize light? Without hardship, how would you cultivate strength? He asked. His words resonated deep within me. It was life-changing, as many humans see challenging moments in life as a punishment, never as a teacher. I remembered that darkness or ignorance is not different from light or knowledge, but different parts of the same pattern of consciousness. I clearly could see that one disappears when the other appears. We always have the power to choose to be. Light, suffering, joy, and free will, the sacred ingredients of spiritual growth. Shalom poked at the fire with a stick, sending tiny sparks into the air, some coming towards me as if they aimed for my eyeballs. I struggled to dodge the sparks, closing my eyes and swaying my head eastward. Different traditions have understood life experiences in their own ways. In Kemet, life was seen as a preparation for higher existence. guided by Mamat, the principle of truth and balance. The Yoruba teach that aligning with Ori, the higher self, brings clarity and purpose. In Buddhism, samsara, the cycle of birth and rebirth, offers endless opportunities for enlightenment, he said. I listened, absorbing every word. Pain as a teacher, pain is inevitable, Shalom said, his voice gentle, but suffering is optional. Let that thought settle before continuing. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment, our unwillingness to let go. But suffering also reveals truth. Just as fire purifies gold, trials refine the soul, he said, his words reverberating like the chuckles of the fire in our midst. I thought of my own struggles, the moments of loss, betrayal, despair. So, suffering isn't a punishment? I asked to be sure. Not at all, he said. It is an invitation. In your Bible that Judaists and Christians follow, Job endured immense suffering, but through it he deepened his faith. In African traditions, trials are seen as necessary rites of passage. The Dagara people of Burkina Faso undergo difficult initiations, not as punishment, but to awaken their hidden strengths. So do the Bamasaba of Uganda with their circumcision rites, he said. I exhaled. So, suffering is not the end, it's part of the process. Shalom nodded. Exactly. And once you stop resisting it, you begin to transform. He guided joy as spiritual expansion. Shalom's expression softened. But suffering is not the only teacher. Joy, too, is essential, he said. Turning motionless, he gestured toward the night sky, where fireflies danced like tiny stars. A joyful heart is a heart in alignment. In Hinduism, Ananda divine bliss is the ultimate state of an awakened soul. In African wisdom, joy is shared through dance, music, and storytelling. The Zulu concept of Ubuntu or Ubuntu in your Baganda, Banyoro, Turo. Ankle teaches that joy multiplies when it is shared with others. Shalom said. I smiled, recalling a time when I was truly happy, not because of material success, but because I was connected, present, alive with those dear to me. Or even being able to be useful and making others exude joy at the service I offer them. So joy is not something we chase, I mused, but something we become. Shalom's eyes gleamed. Yes, and the more you cultivate it, the more your life aligns with the divine flow. I asked. Free will, the power to choose. Shalom's tone deepened. But the greatest lesson of all is choice. You may not control what happens to you, but you can always control your response, he said. I swallowed hard, even in the worst moments. I inquired. Especially in the worst moments, he said. In Yoruba, belief. Your Ayenmore destiny is chosen before birth, but free will determines how it unfolds. In Christianity, Jesus taught that love, forgiveness, and faith are choices we must make daily. In Taoism, surrendering to the flow of the Tao means choosing trust over fear. You have all these lessons to guide people on this planet. Shalom said. A breeze rustled the trees, and I closed my eyes. I thought of the moments in my life when I had chosen anger instead of understanding, fear instead of faith. Shalom's voice was steady. You hold the pen that writes your story. Every choice is a brushstroke on the canvas of your soul. Chose that which helps you ascend and helps others feel and become better, he said. I got the lesson clearly. As I am light, the lessons of life. A curriculum for the soul if life is a school, I asked. Then what are its main subjects? Shalom chuckled. Ah, now you are asking the right questions. He began counting on his fingers. 1. The lesson of love. To love unconditionally, without attachment or expectation. In the Ba faith, love is seen as the greatest force of unity in the universe. 2. The lesson of detachment. To understand that nothing is permanent, and true peace comes from within. In Buddhism, detachment is the key to ending suffering. 3. The lesson of trust. To surrender even when the path is unclear. In Islam, tawakkul, trust in God, is a foundational principle of faith. 4. The lesson of patience. To understand that divine timing is perfect. The Jewish tradition teaches that waiting is not passive, but an act of faith. 5. The lesson of service. To realize that true fulfillment comes not from taking, but from giving. As Jesus said, whoever wants to be great must serve others. I nodded, letting the lessons sink in. And how do we pass these lessons? I asked. Shalom smiled. By living them. Becoming a conscious student of life, looked back at the fire as it crackled between us, its embers glowing like tiny suns. The air was thick with wisdom. It seems like whatever Shalom was telling me formed clouds of wisdom in the air on top. Bow heads. The greatest shift, Shalom said, happens when you stop asking why is this happening to me, and start asking what is this teaching me. Shalom said, this hit deep, as me and several other people I encounter many times wonder why things are happening to us the way they are. The world is not against you, he continued. The universe is not punishing you. You are in a grand classroom, and every experience, every joy, every sorrow is an opportunity for you to evolve, Shalom said. I breathed in deeply. The night felt different now. The air, the stars, the fire, everything seemed to pulse with meaning. I remembered reading somewhere that things don't happen to us, but through us. I wondered whether this is what it all meant. Then Shalom interrupted my thoughts. His voice was soft but powerful. Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. Every storm, every tide, every moment of stillness is part of the grand education of the soul. The only question is, are you ready to learn? He said, leaning in to my side. I met his gaze, and, for the first time since I met Shalom here in Kabukanga, I felt like I have always known him. Chapter 8. The Dance of Divine Balance. Masculine and feminine energies. Shalom, and I sat in the stillness. The air around us humming with an unseen energy. With a deep inhale, I closed my eyes, surrendering to the rhythm of my breath. Inhale. A wave of warmth spread through my chest. Exhale. My body softened into the embrace of the earth beneath me. Slowly, the outer world faded, dissolving into a vast, endless space within. Colors began to swirl in my mind's eye, golden, indigo, green, yellow, and deep violet, dancing like celestial currents. My thoughts quieted, replaced by an overwhelming sense of expansion, as if I was both within my body and beyond it at the same time. A strange yet familiar presence enveloped me, a balance between stillness and motion, strength and surrender. Gentle voice, both distant and near, called me back. My breath deepened, my awareness slowly returning to the physical realm. As I opened my eyes, the fire before me flickered, casting shifting shadows upon the ground. I turned to Shalom, and what I saw made my breath catch in my throat. I blinked. The Shalom before me looked as if both male and female, shifting seamlessly between the two, as fluid as the wind, as certain as the sea. At times, the figure before me had the soft, nurturing presence of a mother, eyes filled with infinite compassion. And then, within the same breath, I saw the sharp, commanding presence of a father, gaze steady as the sun. I inhaled sharply, rubbed my eyes strongly, unsure if my vision had deceived me. "Shalom, you look different," I said, wondering how even I wasn't scared about his apparent transfiguration. Shalom smiled, voice both deep and soft, resonating with an energy beyond the limits of form. "Do not be disturbed by what you see," Shalom said. "I appear as both male and female because I am both, and so are you. We are all. There is no division between male and female at the source level, in the spirit, except in the mind," he added. A wave of understanding rushed through me, though it seemed like the walls of perception I had unconsciously built began to crumble. How can male and female be the same? I wondered. Shalom continued. Masculine and feminine energies are not opposites. They are one. They are the breath of the cosmos, the rhythm of creation itself. To master them is to master life, Shalom said, some words sounding feminine, some sounding masculine. I listened, captivated, as the lesson unfolded like a flower blooming under the sun. Mot, the principle of balance and order. Balance is not something you find. It is something you create. African proverbs. Shalom gestured toward the fire before us, its flames flickering in constant motion. In Kemet, balance was personified as Marat, the principle of truth, harmony, and order. Life itself was judged by its alignment with Marat. When a soul left the earthly realm, its heart was weighed against the feather of Marat. If it was light free of imbalance, dishonesty, and disharmony, it ascended to higher realms. If it was heavy, it remained bound to suffering and returned to earth. Shalom echoed. I swallowed, suddenly aware of the weight I carried within my own heart. So, if I am too rigid in masculine energy, or lost in passive feminine energy, my soul becomes unbalanced, I asked, regaining my composure. Shalom nodded. Exactly. Masculine energy alone, without the wisdom of the feminine, becomes tyranny, control without compassion, action without reflection. Likewise, ungrounded feminine energy becomes stagnation, feeling without direction, surrender without purpose. The two must dance together always in order to ensure a balanced life. Shalom said, as I struggled to attribute the words to the male or female part of Shalom. Shalom pointed to the fire again. Fire exists because of the balance between air and fuel, containment and freedom. Too much control, and the flame is suffocated. Too little, and it spreads recklessly, destroying everything in its path. And so it is with the sacred masculine and feminine within you, Shalom said. The role of love, relationships, and community in spiritual evolution. Shalom turned toward me, eyes filled with knowing. The greatest testing ground for balance is love. Relationships are where we truly meet ourselves, our strengths, our wounds, our capacity to give and receive. I heard him and her say. I sighed, suddenly remembering past relationships, times when I had either given too much or withdrawn too far. But relationships are so difficult, I admitted. Shalom smiled, because they are sacred mirrors, revealing both what we have mastered and what we still need to learn. Shalom said, in Yoruba tradition, ocean, the Orisha of love and fertility, teaches that love is the highest wisdom, not just the love of romance, but the love that nurtures, forgives, and sees beyond illusion. In Islam, Reme divine mercy is the force that sustains all creation, a perfect blend of strength and tenderness. In Christianity, Christ embodied both the warrior and the healer, demonstrating perfect balance. Shalom said. I nodded, recalling the verses of how Jesus overturned tables in the temple with righteous fire, and those where he knelt to wash the feet of his disciples in boundless humility. Shalom's voice softened. Love is not about domination, nor is it about submission. It is about understanding the dance between leading and yielding, between speaking and listening. When two people honor both the masculine and feminine within themselves and each other, they enter a sacred union that transcends ego. The earthly persona, I heard the female voice say. Let the words settle in my heart. So relationships are not meant to complete us, but to help us refine our own balance. I asked. Shalom nodded. Yes, the best partnerships are not ones where one person is all fire and the other all water, but where both learn when to burn bright and when to flow. This applies to friendships, families, even communities. The greatest leaders are those who balance wisdom with action, justice with mercy, discipline with love. He said, the sacred masculine and feminine in daily life. How do I integrate this balance in my own life? I asked. Shalom smiled, displaying more of the female stature, as if she had been waiting for this question. Begin with self-awareness. Ask yourself, when do I lean too heavily into masculine energy, pushing too hard, seeking control? When do I retreat too far into the feminine, avoiding action, waiting instead of creating? Shalom said, before listing simple yet profound ways to cultivate balance. For those too rigid in masculine energy, practice stillness. meditation, surrender. Connect with creativity, intuition, and gentleness. Learn to listen more, feel more, trust more. For those too passive in feminine energy, take bold action, set boundaries, speak your truth with confidence, channel emotions into tangible creation. Shalom paused. True balance is not about being neutral. It is about knowing when to stand firm and when to yield, when to act and when to receive. The female-sounding Shalom said. I nodded slowly, understanding that balance was not a fixed state, but a constant, conscious practice of perfect alignment with source, power, and awareness. Becoming a master of balance, the night had deepened, and the stars above shimmered like ancient eyes watching over us. The fire had started dying down, glowing softly like an ember of truth. Shalom turned to me one last time, their form shifting again, neither man nor woman, yet somehow both. The world is made of opposites, they said, light and dark, movement and stillness, creation and destruction. But within the highest reality there is no division. All is one, I heard them say. I breathed deeply, feeling the truth of it. To master life, Shalom said, is to master balance. To become both the warrior and the healer, the architect and the dreamer, the storm and the calm. When you learn to honor both within yourself, you become whole. And when you become whole, you become divine, she said. A quiet peace settled in my heart. I had spent so much time trying to fit into one mold or the other, never realizing that I was always meant to be both. I took some time to feel the tender part of my being. As the Swahili saying goes, moyo wa kupenda huleta nuru, a heart filled with love brings light. And in that moment, as I sat between the realms of knowing and becoming, I finally understood the Shalom before me. It occurred to be that being holy means being whole, complete, a return to true divinity. Chapter 9. The Human Blueprint. Mind, body, and soul, fire before us flickered, its golden flames swaying as though responding to an unseen rhythm. I emerged from another deep meditation, my mind still lingering in the vast expanse of stillness I had journeyed through. My senses heightened, every sound, every movement felt sharper, more pronounced. As I turned to face Shalom, it was still an uncomfortable sight. Shalom's features were shifting, one moment distinctly masculine, strong and defined, the next soft and delicate, embodying the divine feminine. It was as though they were both, and neither, seamlessly transitioning between forms. My eyes widened in wonder. Shalom smiled knowingly. Do not let it distract you, he said, the voice holding the weight of ancient wisdom. The masculine and the feminine are but two expressions of the same divine essence. All is one. Now, let us speak of another great mystery you must know to master this life on earth, the human blueprint, the map of energy woven into the fabric of human being. Shalom said, the human blueprint, mind, body, and soul. Shalom's voice carried, like the wind, weaving through the silence with effortless grace. You are more than flesh and bone, Shalom said. The ancients knew this well. From the mystics of Kemet, who spoke of Sekhem, the life force, to the Yoruba wisdom of Ori, or Omuntu w Omanda, inner person here in Katara, the higher self, all traditions understood that the human form is not just physical, it is an intricate vessel of energy, flowing with divine currents. Shalom said. I leaned in, listening intently. The understanding that God is energy has been truly fascinating to me. I dedicated a full chapter in becoming ultimate masters on this topic, which explored how mastering energy, direction, and preservation is essential. You mean the chakras, the energy centers I've read about from yogis and Hinduists? I asked, going in straight to show my familiarity with the topic. Shalom nodded. Yes, though the concept exists beyond Hinduism. Many cultures recognized these energy centers. The Kemetic initiates mapped them as the cosmic flow of Sekhem. The Zulu and Dogon saw them as sacred power points, guiding the spirit through life's journey. Each center governs a different aspect of your being, forming the foundation of your spiritual evolution, they said, as now they truly sounded like two different people, yet one. They lifted their hand, tracing patterns in the air as they spoke. The 7 energy centers and African energy systems. 1. Root chakra, Muladhara, the foundation. This is your anchor to the physical world, the seat of survival and security, Shalom explained. In some African communities, it is known as Ukankaba, the grounding force that binds you to your ancestors and the land. Just as a tree cannot stand without roots, you must remain connected to your foundation. 2. Sacral chakra, Svadhisthana. Creativity and emotion, this is the river of your being, the source of creation and sensuality. The Yoruba honor ocean, the divine mother of the waters, who teaches that pleasure and creativity are sacred. When blocked, emotions become stagnant. When open, life flows with grace. 3. Solar plexus, chakra, Manipura. Personal power, here lies your inner fire. Shalom continued, their eyes alight with intensity. The Kemetic priests called it Sekhem, the force of will and self-mastery. It fuels action, confidence, and the power to shape your destiny. 4. Heart chakra, Anahata, love and compassion. This is where humanity meets divinity. Shalom whispered, their tone reverent. In Bantu wisdom, Ubuntu, I am, because we are, reflects the heart's truth. Love is not merely an emotion. It is the bridge between the seen and unseen, the rhythm of the cosmos. 5. Throat chakra, Vishuddha, expression and truth. Words shape reality, Shalom said in a steady voice. In Dogon cosmology, Namo, the divine word, created the universe. This energy center governs your ability to speak truth, to invoke power with your voice. 6. Third eye, chakra, Ajna, intuition and vision, known as Ori Inu in Yoruba tradition. This is the seat of divine vision, they explained. It is where you receive guidance beyond the material world. When awakened, intuition sharpens, dreams become messages, and wisdom flows freely. Some traditions call it the third eye, some the pineal gland. Shalom, said 7. Crown, chakra, sahasrara. Divine connection, the highest point of your being, where your essence merges with Alodamare, the source. Shalom concluded. It is enlightenment, liberation, the realization that you are not separate from the divine you, are an extension of it. The pineal gland, the third eye, as a gateway to divine wisdom. You speak of the third eye, I said, my mind racing. Does this relate to the pineal gland that scientists are saying releases vital hormones? I asked. Shalom nodded. Ah, the sacred key within you. The ancients knew of its power long before modern science. The Kemetic priests called it the Eye of Horus, the inner vision beyond sight. The Dogon sages accessed it through fasting and drumming. The Zulu shamans through herbal tonics and trance states. It is the same Jesus taught when he said that if your eye be single, you will be filled with light. I know you have read about the indigenous cultures and folk healers in the Amazon and Orinoco basins who have traditionally used ayahuasca for healing, divination, and spiritual ceremonies, he said. But what does the third eye do? I pressed. It is your gateway, Shalom said simply. In your science world, it is known that the pineal gland secretes melatonin, regulating sleep and wellness hormones. Yet spiritually, it connects you to the unseen. When awakened, you perceive life beyond the illusion of physical things, sensing the interconnectedness of all things. They said. I exhaled, my mind looking for the next question. So, how do we activate or awaken it? I asked. Many gurus have been teaching on your earth that sun-gazing at dawn, avoiding fluoride, deep meditation, sacred chancel, these stimulate it, but above all, silence. In silence, the vision within speaks. It comes alive. Shalom, said Dot, how thoughts, emotions, and intentions shape reality. Remember, everything is vibration. Shalom continued. Your thoughts, your emotions, they are not just fleeting states. They are forces. Shalom gestured toward the fire, its flames dancing in the night air. If you hold a joyful thought, it radiates like heat, attracting more joy. If you dwell in fear, it thickens the air, manifesting chaos. This is why, across traditions, mindfulness is sacred. Be careful what you put or sustain in your mind, Shalom said. I recalled the Bible verse, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. So, what we focus on becomes our reality. I said. Exactly, Shalom affirmed. The Ephah priests call it est, the power to manifest through intent. The Dagara of Burkina Faso believe focused thoughts shape the future. Even modern science speaks of the observer effect in quantum physics, behaving according to expectation from the observer, Shalom said. A deep realization settled within me. Then mastering my thoughts is mastering my life. I said more as affirmation than a question. Shalom smiled. Now you understand. This knowledge is not to be learned, Shalom said, eyes glimmering. It is to be lived. Align your energy, awaken your vision. Master your thoughts and you will remember who you truly are. Shalom, said. The fire crackled, illuminating the place where we sat. I felt as though I had been given a map, one that had always been within, but waiting to be understood. I nodded, the truth settling deep into my bones. The journey was no longer about seeking. It was about becoming, about mastering a state of being that enables me to come to that which I want to have or to enjoy. So shall it be. Chapter 10. DNA, Ancestors, and the spiritual inheritance of humanity. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. African proverb, the air was thick with silence, the kind that hums with ancient echoes. I sat cross-legged on the stone, my palms resting on my knees, feeling the cool soil beneath me. The night sky stretched endlessly above. Shalom sat across from me, their presence serene, their gaze deep with knowing. I had spent the last 30 minutes in meditation, my breath slowing, my mind dissolving into something vaster. In that stillness, something extraordinary had begun to unfold. Flickering images surfaced in my mind's eye, faces I had never seen but somehow recognized. A warrior adorned in cowrie shells, an elderly woman stirring herbs over a sacred fire, a child laughing by a riverbank, a monk sitting calmly in the woods, a lady in luxurious city office, and then an Indian family in a town shop. It was as if I was seeing through the eyes of those who came before me. My heartbeat synchronized with what was surely ancient, something primal. When I opened my eyes, Shalom's form appeared to shimmer, their face shifting subtly, now more feminine, now more masculine, before settling into a presence that defied categorization. Do not be startled, Shalom said, their voice carrying the warmth of a familiar melody. All is one. Boundaries you perceive, time, identity, even gender, but veils over the truth, they said. I exhaled slowly, grounding myself in the moment. Shalom, I saw them. Faces I don't know, but I feel them in my bones. What does it mean? I asked. A gentle smile formed on Shalom's lips. It means you are remembering. They leaned forward, eyes alight with the fire of revelation. You are the living bridge between your ancestors and what you call the future. The knowledge you seek is already within you, woven into the very strands of your DNA, they said. How DNA stores ancestral wisdom, Shalom continued. Modern science tells us the DNA carries not just genetic information, but ancestral memory. But the ancients knew this long before the term epigenetics was ever coined. In African spiritual traditions, your blood is a river carrying the wisdom, the joys, the struggles, and the triumphs of those who walked before you. That is why your African traditions ensure you atone for the transgressions of any of your kindred. For they knew you are but one, same from the source. Shalom said. I furrowed my brow. But how does DNA hold more than just physical traits? I asked. Think of it like an archive. Every experience, every trauma, every spiritual initiation leaves an imprint. Some cultures call this karma, Others call it divine inheritance. In Ifa, the Yoruba believe that ancestral memory is stored in the Ori Inutha inner self, the seat of destiny. Among the Dogon of Mali, the Namo, celestial beings, were said to encode knowledge within human bloodlines, ensuring that wisdom is never lost, only waiting to be reawakened. Explained Shalom. They gestured toward the trees around us, their branches swaying as if whispering secrets. Consider the tree. It does not grow in isolation. Its roots carry the memory of every season, every storm, every moment of sunlight. The new seed the tree produces carries these memories to the next cycle. So too does your DNA carry the echoes of all who came before you, Shalom said. I took a deep breath, the realization settling in. So activating our DNA means unlocking the wisdom our ancestors left behind, I asked. Shalom nodded. Exactly. And when you activate your DNA, you don't just reclaim their knowledge, heal what was broken. You amplify their strengths, and you fulfill the dreams they never got to complete, Shalom said. Now I knew why the prayer Jesus asked us to pray is in plural. Our daily bread, our sins, lead us. Ubuntu and collective consciousness, umuntu ngabantu. A person is a person through other people. Zulu proverbs. Shalom turned their gaze toward the horizon. There is no such thing as an isolated soul. We are all strands of the same divine fabric. This is the essence of Ubuntu, African philosophy that says, I am because we are, Shalom said. I thought back to moments in my life when I felt disconnected, like I was walking a path no one had tread before. But what if someone feels lost? What if they don't know where they come from, or don't connect to anything in their past? I asked. Shalom smiled. You are never truly lost. Even when the mind forgets, the soul remembers. Every time you honor your intuition, every time you listen to the whispers of your spirit, I mean your inner self, you are reconnecting with that great lineage, Shalom said, tracing a line in the dirt. Think of time not as a straight line, but as a great river. Your ancestors are not behind you. They flow beside you. And when you heal, you do not heal alone. You send that healing backward and forward through time. At different points in your timeline, Shalom said, a shiver ran through me. So when we change, when we elevate, we're not just doing it for ourselves, I inquired. Exactly. When you break cycles of pain, when you reclaim your divine power, you free your ancestors from the chains of unfinished lessons. Blessed the next generations before they are even born, Shalom said. What a revelation. Practices for unlocking ancestral wisdom. Shalom gestured for me to sit straighter. Now, let's talk about how your communities try to awaken what already exists within you. I heard the now familiar voice, pointing to his fingers. He began to list one, honoring the ancestors through ritual. Create an ancestral altar with photos, candles, and offerings. Speak their names aloud to keep their memory alive. Offer prayers or libations. thanking them for their guidance. 2. Dream work and ancestral communication. Set an intention before sleep to receive messages from your ancestors. Keep a dream journal. Many messages come in symbols and visions. Use African drumming rhythms or chanting Plu to access altered states of consciousness. 3. Meditation and DNA. Activation practices use sacred sound frequencies. The ancient Kemetic mantra, Sa Sekim Sahu, is said to unlock dormant potential. So does Om or Om. Engage in rhythmic movement. Dance is a powerful activator of ancestral memory. Work with crystals and herbs. Certain natural elements amplify spiritual awakening, like ayahuasca, marijuana, pine trees. 4. Reconnecting with indigenous spiritualities. Study the traditions of your lineage, their stories, prayers, and myths hold keys to your identity. Participate in cultural rituals. These are encoded with spiritual power. Find a mentor or elder who can guide you in rediscovering ancestral wisdom. Shalom's voice softened. The more you honor where you came from, the clearer your path forward becomes, they said. It is then that I remembered that Jesus proclaimed he came to fulfill the law, not to remove. Nothing changes but our remembering. By turning within and again tuning to the divine, embracing your spiritual inheritances, the firelight flickered between us. Shalom looked at me, seeming to read deeper whether I had understood. Your ancestors do not live in the past. They live in your breath, in your thoughts, in the way your heart beats to rhythms older than time. Shalom said. I let their words sink in. So remembering them is really about remembering myself? I asked, a slow nod. Exactly. Every time you step into your power, you step into theirs. You are their living prayer, their walking altar, their dream fulfilled. Shalom said. A gust of wind stirred the leaves around us, carrying with it a presence, something unseen, yet deeply felt. I closed my eyes for a moment, and when I opened them, I knew I was not alone. I had never been alone, and now I was ready to remember. I knew the ancestors are always calling. Will you answer? Chapter 11. The Great Illusion. Breaking free from the matrix, I sat in silence, my breath steady, my mind unraveling from the weight of distractions. I felt my consciousness expand beyond my body. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing an intricate web of unseen forces binding reality together. Slowly, I opened my eyes. The world appeared the same, yet something had shifted. The trees, the air, the very space between objects shimmered with a new intensity, as though I had glimpsed a hidden truth just beyond my previous grasp. Across from me, Shalom sat in quiet observation, their face calm yet infinitely knowing. For a moment, something strange happened. Their features softened, shifting between the masculine and feminine, flickering between defined and formless. I blinked to be sure I can take in all the changes that one person can be experiencing. In appearance, Shalom smiled. You see beyond the illusion now, he asked. I swallowed, my heart beating faster. What just happened? You are beginning to recognize that form is not as rigid as you've been led to believe. Everything you perceive is a construct, a projection of deeper truths, Shalom said, leaning in slightly. What you call reality is a veil, carefully woven to keep you bound within its limits by those who perceived and conceived it. I heard them say. I exhaled sharply. I remember that nothing is real apart from everything, the truth. It occurred to me what I call real is what I am perceiving, by of the experience. That anything can elicit different meanings to different people experiencing it. It was frightening to know that every person is not one real being, but a collection of masks one puts on for different people in different circumstances, and how those different people perceive the specific appearance or vibration of a particular person. Then what is real? I asked when I returned from this reverie to see what Shalom can explain further about this. Shalom's eyes gleamed. That, my friend, is what we are about to uncover. The illusion of separation and materialism stood and gestured toward the vast sky. The greatest illusion mankind has ever accepted is the illusion of separation, the belief that we are alone, that we are disconnected from the divine, from each other, and from the universe itself, Shalom said. I let those words settle. Over the past 5 years, it had started to be funny to me how people could think they're different from each other, or from grass, plants, and cattle whose beef we eat, or even the soil where all nature grows from. And yet, that's exactly how the world operates. We are divided by race, nationality, religion, social status. Everything seems designed to keep us apart, I said. That is by design, Shalom replied. Many know about the key universal law of divine oneness. The illusion is reinforced by materialism, by ego, by the structures of power that benefit. Pray from your belief in separateness. In the teachings of the Bakongo people, the world we see is merely a reflection of the spiritual realm, like an image in water. The Kalunga line separates the seen from the unseen, just as in Hinduism. My illusion binds the soul to a limited existence. Your own people here in the kingdom of light you call Katara have the concept of Emienda, Yakatara, encompassing all people as one, Shalom said. I nodded, further remembering the allegory of the cave by Plato. Like prisoners mistaking shadows for reality, I chipped in, exactly. And just as in the cave, few dare to step beyond the illusion. For the unknown is terrifying, Shalom said. How fear, programming, and conditioning trap human potential. Shalom talked slowly, their voice steady and deliberate. Fear is the cornerstone, of the illusion. It is how what some call the matrix keeps you asleep. Fear of scarcity keeps you chasing money. Fear of judgment keeps you conforming. Fear of failure keeps you from breaking free. And fear of death. Shalom paused, locking eyes with me. Fear of death keeps you believing that this physical existence is all there is. I heard them emphasize, as if at the moment we were. In a state not physical. I shivered. So we're programmed from birth to follow some people's interests? I asked. Yes, from childhood. You are conditioned to define yourself by external factors. Your name, your status, your possessions. The Yoruba concept of rs.gb speaks of the soul's divine agreements before birth. Yet, upon entering the physical world, most forget their mission. In Kabbalah, Klipit refers to the spiritual shells that obscure divine light. In Buddhism, the cycle of samsara traps souls in endless reincarnation, blinded by illusion. That is why you see all those elaborate naming ceremonies and rituals in your communities, baptisms in religions. Someone or a group is claiming you and guiding how you experience life. But it is part of the divine grand game of life in the physical form. You have to be separate to realize your unity with all. Shalom said. I swallowed. So how do we break free? I asked. Shalom's expression turned thoughtful. First, you must realize you are in a prison. Then you must unlearn everything you thought was true. Shalom said, breaking the illusion. The path to liberation. Shalom raised a hand. There are 3 keys to escaping the illusion: awareness, detachment, and conscious creation. I sat up straighter, listening intently. 1. Awareness, recognizing the illusion. Study ancient spiritual texts. The emerald tablets of Thoth describe how material distractions blind humanity from higher wisdom. Observe how society constantly reinforces external validation through wealth, appearance, and power. Engage in self-inquiry. Ask yourself, who am I beyond my body, beyond my job, beyond my name, beyond my tribe, beyond my religion? 2. Detachment. Releasing material attachments. Buddhism teaches non-attachment as the path to enlightenment. African traditions speak of Yukafuma Mlonyeni, the Zulu principle of rising above worldly concerns. Understand that nothing external defines you, not your possessions, not your achievements, not even your relationships. Shift your focus inward. Seek peace, not in things, but in stillness. 3. Conscious creation. Manifesting higher reality. Train your mind to see beyond the illusion. You can call upon what you want to see in your life through visualization and lucid dreaming. Align your actions with divine purpose rather than societal expectations. Engage in group meditations, prayer circles, and collective healing. The more minds awaken, the weaker the illusion becomes. I absorbed every word, feeling a deep stirring within me. But doesn't detaching from the material world mean rejecting society? I asked. No, the goal is not to escape, but to master. The true sage walks through illusion without being controlled by it. Jesus said, "Be in the world, but not of it." The Taoist master lives in harmony with the flow, untouched by its chaos. Shalom said, smiling. Embracing true reality, this I had to take time to drink in the message. The fire between us crackled softly as I let Shalom's words settle. The world suddenly felt lighter, as though something had shifted in my perception. "So breaking free isn't about running away," I murmured. "It's about waking up to our true identity as free beings of the Father in expression," I said. Shalom nodded. "Exactly. To awaken is to see the world as it truly is. To remember that you are not a prisoner, but a creator. That this life, bij, but a dream within a dream. You wrote in your own book the need to grow to the realization that you are I am. You are a part of the divine. You wrote rightly that the absolute truth for everyone is I am and I create," Shalom said. I exhaled, looking at my hands, at the form I had taken in this lifetime, feeling proud that I had received and shared such great lessons before. "And what happens when enough people wake up?" I asked, as I resisted the urge to take credit for anything I write, as I know I am just but a channel of the divine expressing through my physical being. Shalom's gaze burned with quiet intensity. "Then, my friend, the illusion crumbles, and humanity will remember its infinite nature," Shalom said. A shiver ran through me, not of fear, but of awe. "How thou art, Lord!" I hummed within, to myself, to the universe. For the first time, I saw the shadows on the cave wall for what they were, and beyond them the light was calling. Clarity was winning. The question still was, how many are willing to wake up? Chapter 12. The call to higher awareness. I emerged from meditation to find Shalom's form stabilizing into that of a man in his early 30s. His presence exuded a serene authority, and his eyes sparkled with timeless wisdom. "Good morning," he greeted me with a warm smile. "This is your journey to understand the call to higher awareness," he said. I nodded, absorbing the profound truth in his words, and keeping to my understanding that he wasn't a usual human being trolling the earth. "Understanding your life purpose. As a divine co-creator, each soul," Shalom began, "is born with a unique purpose, a melody that contributes to the grand symphony of the universe. I see in some of your books you call it a united verse or inverse," he continued. I smiled, grateful that he was referring my previous work. "What knowledge is currently available in our traditions for people to discover this melody?" I inquired. "In Yoruba cosmology," he explained, "there's the concept of a yonmo, which signifies one's destiny. It's believed that before birth, a soul chooses a path aligned with its growth. However, societal conditioning and personal fears often cloud this path. Among your Bonyoro, you have similar concepts like Omuguso or Boamezi, Hikirali," he said. Reflecting on his words, I asked, "How can we realign with this purpose?" "By cultivating awareness, discipline, and maintaining a connection with your higher self. This you can only gain by going within yourself and surrendering all thought and worry, trusting your higher self from the Father of all, the Allah, to speak to you." Shalom replied. He then shared a story. Consider a young woman in Ghana who felt lost. She journeyed to the sacred Walai waterfalls. In deep meditation, she envisioned her ancestors guiding her toward healing. Embracing this vision, she became a traditional healer. fulfilling her true destiny. Shalom said, how meditation, fasting, and spiritual discipline open the higher self to awaken higher awareness. Shalom continued, one must clear the mind and body of distractions. How can humans achieve that state? I asked. Through practices like meditation, fasting, and spiritual discipline. He answered. 1. Meditation, the gateway to divine wisdom in Kemetic spirituality. Shalom noted, priests practiced deep silence, known as Shitat Netta, to commune with higher realms. He said, how can one start meditating? I inquired. Begin each morning with 10 minutes of silent reflection, he suggested. Focus on your breath and set an intention for the day. Over time, this strengthens your connection to the divine within, Shalom advised. 2. Fasting, purifying the body and mind. Fasting is a common practice across various traditions. Shalom explained. In Yoruba culture, it's used to receive messages from Orunmila, the deity of wisdom. What benefits does fasting offer? I queried. It reduces distractions and increases receptivity to higher consciousness, he replied. A man in Kenya sought clarity about his life. He undertook a 21-day water fast. By the final week, he experienced heightened awareness and dreams filled with ancestral guidance, revealing his life's purpose. Shalom recounted. 3. Spiritual discipline. The path to mastery was taking it all in. As if I had a paper on which I was writing every word with the best indelible ink. Self-discipline is the foundation of power, Shalom stated. How can one develop this discipline? I asked. Commit to a spiritual routine, he advised. Whether it's prayer, journaling, or energy work, consistency will unlock higher awareness over time, Shalom said, further reminding me how I managed to speak to him because of my dedicated prayers every morning and evening. African proverbs and teachings on self-realization. African wisdom offers profound insights into self-realization. Shalom said, could you share some? I requested. He nodded and recited, the eye never forgets what the heart has seen. Ethiopian proverb. This means intuition holds the key to divine remembrance, he explained. A man who uses force is afraid of reasoning. Kenyan proverb, true mastery requires inner balance, not aggression. He elaborated, wisdom does not come overnight. Arkan proverb, spiritual awakening is a lifelong journey, he emphasized. Then shared about an elder in Senegal, known for his profound wisdom. He gained knowledge not from books, but from observing nature, engaging in rituals, and listening to his ancestors. This inner knowing transcends intellectual learning. Remember, ancestors are part of you, and you are part of them. The Almighty, the Father, being our ultimate supreme ancestor. Are you listening to the ancestors? Shalom asked, answering the call. To higher awareness I sat calmly, half asleep but attentive, taking in every word and wisdom, but wondering whether this doesn't mean one should not live usual life as we do on earth, with the realities and struggles of achievement of desires. Awakening to higher awareness is about transforming reality not escaping it. Shalom said, as if reading my mind. How can we begin this transformation? I asked. Through meditation, fasting, and spiritual discipline. He reiterated, this journey requires patience, practice, and a willingness to unlearn societal conditioning. Most of what you have been taught is not true, but what they wanted you to know. Like you see with crops, where every plant must draw its own nutrients from the ground. You need to tune in to your source, the creator of all, and get the true instructions to awaken you to your true purpose, Shalom said. He smiled gently and added, as the Yoruba say, a river that forgets its source will soon dry up. You are that river. Your source is your higher self. The call to awaken has been sounded. Will you answer? He challenged me. His words resonated deeply, igniting a spark within, urging me to embark on the path of self-discovery and higher awareness. I closed my eyes, looked around and in myself, searching for signs whether I am answering the call to awaken. Chapter 13. Love as the ultimate frequencies. The soft glow of our sanctuary enveloped us. I couldn't help but wonder what is the main ingredient to this awakening. What is the individual to do to ensure one is well adjusted to this possibility? Peace of tuning into the higher self and stand a chance to get divine insights. Shalom sat quietly, seeming to read me from within. His presence exuded warmth and wisdom, and his eyes held a depth that spoke of ancient truths. Love, Shalom began, his voice resonating with gentle authority, is the highest vibrational frequency. In existence, it transcends time, space, and dimensions, binding all of creation in a divine orchestra. Shalom said. I leaned in, eager to absorb his words. In African spirituality, we embrace the philosophy of Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. This principle teaches that love is not an isolated experience, but a shared energy connecting individuals to their communities and the cosmos. Shalom said. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle in with me. Similarly, in ancient Kemetic teachings, love is embodied in Ma'at, the universal order ensuring harmony and balance. He Adonai nodded, reflecting on how these concepts mirrored the teachings of other spiritual traditions. Love has the power to heal past wounds, dissolve fear, and realign humanity with its divine purpose. Shalom said, his eyes meeting mine. When we move beyond conditional love based on expectations and attachments, we enter the realm of unconditional love, transforming ourselves and the world, he added. He then shared a story of a man in Rwanda who, after losing his family in the genocide, embarked on a journey of forgiveness through meditation, prayer, and the guidance of elders. He learned that only love could release him from suffering. He later became a peace ambassador, spreading the message of reconciliation across spiritual traditions. Shalom continued. Enlightened beings have embodied divine love as a transformative force, he said. He spoke of Christ's consciousness, where Jesus taught boundless love. instructing followers to love their enemies and bless those who curse them, followers of Jesus. The parable of the prodigal son illustrates that love is not earned but freely given, regardless of past transgressions, Shalom explained. Turning to Buddhism, he discussed the concept of metta, or loving kindness, an unconditional love that dissolves suffering and separation. Enlightenment is reached not through personal gain, but through recognizing our oneness with all sentient beings. By exhibiting love for all, Shalom said, adding that natural elements like the sun, water, soil, and air have demonstrated unconditional love as they are open for use by all, irrespective of your character record. I listened intently, absorbing the interconnectedness of these teachings. To embody divine love, Shalom advised, we must practice forgiveness and compassion. He emphasized that forgiveness doesn't condone harmful actions, but releases the forgiver from the cycle of suffering. In Eye for Wisdom, he shared, the Orisha Obatala teaches that purity of heart leads to peace and divine connection. He said, Shalom suggested writing a letter to someone who has hurt us, not to send, but to release the pain. Speak words of forgiveness as a sacred ritual to dissolve the energetic bonds of resentment, he encouraged. He turned his gaze as if turning a page in a book. Shalom started talking about compassion, explaining that it requires seeing beyond the ego, recognizing that each person carries their own wounds. The Hopi people, he said, teach that compassion is the bridge between the self and the collective, he acknowledged. He recommended performing daily acts of kindness without expecting anything in return, shifting the heart toward divine resonance. As key ways of expressing compassion, to operate at the frequency of love is to transcend human limitations and align with the divine. Love is the greatest alchemy, capable of transforming pain into wisdom, division into unity, and suffering into liberation, Shalom said. As his words settled into my mind, I felt a profound shift within. The path to your higher self, Shalom said softly, begins with love for yourself, for others, and for the divine presence within all things. Love, he continued, is not merely an emotion. It is the very essence of creation, the ultimate frequency that resonates through every atom of the cosmos. His words echoed the teachings of various spiritual traditions, each emphasizing the transformative power of love. In Christianity, Jesus Christ's message centered on unconditional love, urging followers to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Matthew 5:44. I became aware that this radical love challenges individuals to transcend personal grievances and embrace a universal compassion. According to Shalom, in Buddhism, the practice of metta, or loving-kindness meditation, cultivates an all-encompassing love that extends to all beings, fostering a sense of interconnectedness and empathy. He said Hinduism speaks of prema, a divine love that transcends the physical realm, connecting the soul to the ultimate reality, Brahman. This love is seen as a path to spiritual liberation and unity with the divine. In Judaism, the concept of ahava rabba or great love, reflects the profound bond between the Creator and creation, encouraging individuals to mirror this love in their relationships with others. Shalom added, demonstrating a deep mastery of many spiritual traditions. He said Islam teaches about mahabba, the love for Allah and His creation, emphasizing that love is a fundamental aspect of faith and a means to attain closeness to the divine. Taoism views love as an expression of the Tao, the natural order of the universe, promoting harmony and balance in all relationships. The Bahá'í faith emphasizes the unity of mankind, teaching that love is the primary force that will bring about global harmony and peace. He said, as Shalom spoke, I felt a profound resonance within me, as if the truths he articulated were awakening a deep-seated understanding. The realization dawned that love, in its purest form, is a universal language, a force that transcends cultural and religious boundaries, uniting us all in the shared experience of existence. To embody this ultimate frequency, Shalom concluded, his gaze meeting mine with unwavering intensity, is to align oneself with the very heartbeat of the universe. It is through love that we find our true purpose and contribute to the harmonious symphony of life. He said, in that moment, I understood that the journey to higher awareness is not a solitary endeavor, but a collective ascent, guided by the transformative power of unconditional love. I took a deep breath, as if readying myself to become a living expression of divine love. May we ever ask ourselves, at every moment of decision, what would love do? Chapter 14. Service, Destiny, and the Universal Mission. The embers of the night's fire still smoldered on the stone, sending thin wisps of smoke curling into the crisp morning air. The deep blue of the sky was beginning to surrender to streaks of gold and orange as the first light of dawn crept over Lake Albert. Its waters shimmered softly in the distance, about 200 meters from where we sat. The gentle rustling of trees seemed to whisper secrets carried by the lake's breath, while the distant cries of fishermen preparing their nets added life to the silence. Peer in to see the waters in the wee hours of the morning. I fathomed a lively kabukanga in Dagger Place, where the veil between the seen and unseen seemed thinner, where wisdom could be drawn from the depths as effortlessly as the fishermen cast their nets. Shalom sat cross-legged across from me on the worn stone, where our fire had burned bright all night, illuminating our conversations. Now, in the hushed quiet of dawn, he closed his eyes as though listening to the pulse of the universe itself. I, too, remained silent, absorbing the sacred stillness of the moment. When the root is deep, there is no reason to fear the wind. Shalom finally spoke, his voice blending with the rhythm of the lake's gentle waves. Such is the nature of destiny, my dear Businj. It is not dictated by fleeting whims or the desires of the ego, but by the divine imprint woven into your very being before you even drew the first breath, he said. I exhaled, absorbing his words, remembering the Bible verse on God, knowing a person before one appears in the mother's womb. But if destiny is already written, Where does our will come in? Do we not shape our own paths? I asked. A soft smile curved his lips. The paradox of free will and divine order. Many traditions speak of this. Some call it karma, others karda, maktub. It is written in Ifa. The Yoruba say Ori chooses one's path before birth. Yet it is up to the individual to align with it. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that his duty, his dharma, is already before him, yet he must choose to walk it. Destinies, both a map and a journey, an unfolding of what was always within you, Shalom said. His words sparked a memory, like the story of the young woman in Tanzania who sought divination and discovered she was meant to be a healer. I asked, referring to a far-off story, to test if Shalom could relate to the story. Precisely, he nodded. She was lost only because she had forgotten what her soul had already chosen. And what did the Babalo tell her? Shalom asked. I was impressed with his sense of detail. I smiled, recalling the tale. That her grandmother's spirit walked with her, guiding her to embrace the path of healing. That through service to others, she would remember who she truly was, I said. Shalom leaned forward. Service is the doorway to destiny. The greatest among you shall be your servant, as Jesus taught. In Taoism, they call it Wu, waferless action. In Buddhism, the Bodhisattva vows to return, life after life, to aid others. To serve is to align oneself with the divine current rather than resist it, Shalom said. His words settled deep into my soul. Yet a new question arose. But how do we know we are aligned with our divine assignment? What if we are mistaken? I asked more for you than for myself. Shalom's gaze softened. Introspection, my beloved. The still, small voice within you has always known. In Kemet, they spoke of marked truth, balance, and harmony. When you walk in alignment, the path feels light, even in hardship. But when you resist, life becomes a struggle. The Sufis say, die before you die, meaning one must surrender the false self to awaken to the true self. This is the key assignment of everyone on this planet. To awaken to your true self, Shalom said. He gestured toward a book he had beside him, which I hadn't noticed that he had since I met him. Would you read for me? He asked. I reached for the book, my fingers tracing the ancient symbols before I spoke the words aloud. The kingdom is within you. Shalom closed his eyes in agreement. Yes, your highest path is not outside of you. It is inscribed in your soul. Meditation, prayer, and silence help you hear its whispers. He boomed. A gust of wind passed through the trees, lifting a few leaves from the ground, swirling them before us. I watched their dance, mesmerized by their effortless movement. And what of service beyond ourselves? What is our role in the greater whole? I asked, thinking of our motto in Rotary of Service above self, the highest destiny. Shalom. Ted is to be a steward, not just of oneself, but of all life. The Dogon believe the earth is a living entity, infused with spirit. The Igbo say, he who does not know where he is going must at least know where he came from. Ubuntu teaches us, I and because we are. True purpose is never isolated. It is woven into the fabric of humanity and how people relate to each other, he said. I felt the weight of his words, realizing that destiny is not simply about personal fulfillment, but about contributing to something greater. So, the businessman who shifts from accumulating wealth to funding education for the poor, he has found his true calling. I asked. Shalom nodded, because in giving he was given more, not in riches, but in fulfillment. Christ washed the feet of his disciples. Muhammad served the poor. The Dalai Lama speaks of compassion as the root of happiness. Service refines the soul, aligning it with the divine purpose, he said, the words coming out so sweetly I didn't want him to stop. I turned to face him fully. Then to serve is to fulfill destiny. I asked. To serve, he whispered, is to remember who you are. He retorted. The distant crow of a rooster broke the quiet of dawn, signaling the waking of the dwellers of Kabukanga landing site. Beyond the trees, I sat in silence, letting his words settle into the deepest parts of my being. My path, though uncertain, had never been lost. It had only been waiting for me to listen. Will you step into your purpose? Shalom asked, his eyes holding the quiet fire of eternity. I breathed in the sacred air of Kabukanga and knew my answer before I even spoke it. Yes. Chapter 15. The Awakening Process. Initiations and Trials. The remnants of the fire lay in smoldering fragments, their warmth slowly fading into the cool embrace of dawn. Above, the sky stretched wide in a canvas of deep violet and ember, gold reflecting off the rippling expanse of Lake Matanzich. A light mist curled along the water's edge, rising and vanishing like whispers of the unseen. I could feel the air was thick with the scent of earth, the whispers of the trees, and the distant call of fishermen readying their boats. As I attempted the morning breath gratitude exercise, I could smell the scent of morning dew mingled with the earthy aroma of damp foliage, carrying the silent promise of renewal. Somewhere in the distance, the faint murmur of villagers preparing, for the day wove into the symphony of nature's slow awakening, was of note. Shalom sat in silence upon the stone he had sat on most of the night, his gaze steady upon the lake's vastness. I couldn't believe I had spent the whole night by the fire, listening, absorbing, questioning. Now, in the sacred quiet of morning, I knew we were stepping into deeper waters. The journey to the higher self, Shalom began, his voice measured. Like the rhythmic lapping of the lake's waves, is not a path paved with roses. It is a road of fire where the soul is tempered, tested, and transformed, he said as he turned to face me. Many are called, but few answer, he continued. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words settle upon my chest. Why is it so difficult? I asked. He smiled, his expression both knowing and patient. Because transformation requires death before rebirth, surrender before mastery, and faith before sight. Shalom said as his hand traced the outline of a weathered book beside him. The trials of initiation are universal. In every sacred tradition, from the mystery schools of Kemet to the desert wanderings of prophets, from the shamanic rites of the Americas to the spiritual seclusion of monks. The path to enlightenment demands the soul be stripped of illusion, Shalom said. I looked about, wondering whether anyone else had come nearer and was listening. I noticed a soft gust of wind carried the scent of the lake through the trees. I shivered, though not from the cold. What happens in these trials? I asked. The dark night of the soul, as some of your people call it, Shalom said, his voice carrying the gravity of ancient wisdom. A descent into the abyss, where the comforts of the world no longer sustain. It is a time of suffering, of questioning, of despair, he said, gesturing toward the horizon. King David spoke of it in the Psalms. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Shalom intoned with a unique mastery. He paused, letting the words sink in before continuing. In the Kemetic mystery schools, initiates were placed in darkness for days, forced to face their own fears. The Dagara people of Burkina Faso send their initiates into solitude, where they confront their inner demons. Christ himself spent 40 days in the wilderness and was tested by the illusions of power, pride, and materialism. Shalom echoed. I swallowed hard, care about too much, as they say in Uganda, speak. And if one cannot endure, I asked. Shalom met my gaze. Then the false self remains. The ego tightens its grip. But for those who walk through the fire, the ego shatters, giving way to the true self, the self that is one with the Creator and everyone and everything else. Shalom said with finality. The fire crackled softly at my feet. Is the ego our enemy? I asked to ensure I get more nuggets from him before we are interrupted. No, Shalom said, shaking his head. The ego is a tool, but when it rules, it blinds. It makes us believe we are separate from the divine, from each other, from our purpose, he said. As I wondered what to ask next, he lifted a small clay vessel and poured water onto the earth, watching as it disappeared into the soil. In Ifa, the Yoruba teach that the Oriya divine consciousness guides us, but only if we surrender to its wisdom. In Buddhism, this is called unnata, the realization that the self is an illusion. The Buddha saw through Mara's deceptions, just as we must see through our own. Jesus in the Bible asked people to ignore all their early possessions and responsibilities, to follow him. There is a giving up to do, Shalom said. As I was internalizing this, a flock of birds lifted into the sky, their wings catching the rising light. Bend once the ego dissolves? I asked, still looking at the birds. Shalom's smile deepened. Then comes the rebirth. He stretched his hands toward the warming sky, towards the birds. The phoenix of Kemet, the serpent shedding its skin in Bantu traditions. The resurrection of Jesus, each tells the same story. The soul, once bound by illusion, emerges radiant, limitless, divine. Shalom said with a rare, calm mastery. A silence settled between us, heavy with revelation. It was a weighty lesson for me to learn that the trials were not to break us, but to unmask us of the false self. put to refine us into who we had always been beneath the layers of fear and illusion. But the world does not welcome awakened souls, I said, my voice quieter now. No, Shalom agreed. Every initiate faces resistance. Job was tested, not for weakness, but for strength. In the Ifa tradition, Ogun's warriors wear sacred beads to shield themselves from opposition. The Bantu speak of endo-chefs that rise against those stepping into higher wisdom. He exhaled. Awakening is not for the faint of heart. It demands spiritual armor, Shalom said. I turned to him and asked, how do we protect ourselves when in this awakening process? Shalom's fingers traced patterns on the ground. Daily prayer, communion with ancestors, fasting for clarity, rituals to cleanse energy, meditation to align with the divine. These are your shields taught by several sages over your world time, he said. The light of dawn now fully bathed the land, painting the lake in hues of gold. I watched its surface ripple, reflecting back the truth I had come to understand. And at the end of it all, play, asked, my voice in stealth mode. Sort of. At the end, Shalom said, the student becomes the master, no longer ruled by fear, but guided by wisdom, no longer seeking outside of themselves, but listening to the divine voice within. Shalom said, I closed my eyes, feeling the truth settle into my bones. What is the key lesson here? I asked myself. A voice told me from within that the trials were not punishments. They were gifts. They stripped away the false, so that only truth remained. They burned away the illusion, so that the eternal could shine. The phoenix does not fear the fire, Shalom whispered, for it knows it will rise again, he said. Clearly demonstrated he was hearing what I was reflecting on within. It is then I knew I am one with him. We are all one. Chapter 16. Mastering the Art of Energy and Manifestation. I couldn't sense a feeling of this is it. I have learnt too much and need to start to make it bear fruit. I looked at the sky, now washed in hues of deep blue and amber, stretched endlessly over the waters of Lake Mortansich. The rhythmic murmur of the waves against the shore played like a sacred hymn, whispering the secrets carried by the waters from all the rivers that pour into this lake. A gentle wind carried the scent of earth and morning dew, weaving through the trees that stood as silent sentinels to our gathering. The remnants of our fire from the night had faded into glowing embers, pulsing like the breath of a slumbering giant. Shalom sat still beside me, his expression serene yet charged with an unspoken intensity. He turned toward the horizon, where the first clear rays of light met the vast waters. Energy, he said, his voice steady as the lake's waves, is the language of the divine. Everything you see, everything you feel, is a manifestation, of its infinite energy vibrating at different frequencies. Shalom said. I listened, absorbing his words like parched earth drinking the first rains of the season. But how does one master energy? I asked, my voice carrying the weight of genuine curiosity. He smiled, the kind of smile that hinted at the depth of what was to come. By first understanding that you are energy itself. Every thought, every emotion, Every breath you take has a vibrational signature. The higher your frequency, the closer you move to the realm of miracles, bringing forth that you wish to see effortlessly. He said, "The art of raising vibrational frequency," Shalom gestured, "to the surrounding landscape. Consider the teachings of the ancients. In Yoruba spirituality, Ace is the divine force that moves through all things. The Kabbalists speak of the Sephiroth emanations of divine light that shape creation. In Buddhism, the path to enlightenment, Bizo, is one of vibrational purification, freeing the soul from attachment and suffering. He hummed. I was internalizing this with eyes closed when I felt his gaze turn to me. Tell me, have you ever felt moments where you were in complete harmony, as if the universe itself was guiding you? He asked. I nodded, recalling instances of deep clarity. Even the many moments when synchronicities seemed to unfold effortlessly before me. That is alignment, he affirmed. To master energy, one must cultivate practices that elevate the soul, he said, and continued to outline the core methods known to sages across traditions. Conscious breathwork, the breath of Ra, the sacred rhythm of pranayama. The breath of life breath is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. Deep, intentional breathing cleanses the soul. Sacred sound and chanting. From Gregorian chants to African drumming to Buddhist mantra, sound carries frequency. Words spoken with intention shape reality. Nature immersion. The Dogon people of Mali speak of the cosmic intelligence embedded in nature. The Taoists understood that aligning with nature's rhythms awakens higher wisdom. Ritual purification, water, herbs, fasting. Each tradition has known that clearing energetic blockages makes space for the divine to flow. Manifestation, the science of directing energy. Shalom's gaze deepened, as if seeing beyond what the eyes could perceive. To manifest, he continued, is not merely to wish, but to will. Thought is the architect of reality. The great traditions have always known this, Shalom said. He lifted a small parchment from his side. In Kabbalah, the 72 names of God are said to hold the key to unlocking creation itself. By focusing the mind on divine vibrations, we align with the forces of manifestation, the ability to make real that which one wishes to see or experience. Shalom said. I watched as he looked up and down, then traced a symbol into the sand. The Igbo people of Nigeria understand Chi, the personal god within, guiding one's destiny. The Chinese call it Ki, the Japanese Ki, in Ifa. The ancestors are called upon for support, their wisdom shaping the unseen realms. There is an ever-present divine force, a power you can always tune into and have it help you achieve the reality you want. Shalom said. I leaned forward, captivated. And what of Hermeticism? I asked, wanting to know what he might share from the ancient divine knowledge container. Shalom's smile returned. The Kabbalion teaches, the all is mind. The law of correspondence states, as above, so below. As within, so without. Reality mirrors consciousness. It reflects what is within you, he said. He spoke of techniques passed down through time, mental transmutation. shift fear to faith, scarcity to abundance. Thought is alchemy. Visualization. See what you desire as though it is already yours, and reality will follow. Symbols and sacred geometry, ancient sigils, mandalas, and geometric codes direct energy with precision. The secret of co-creation. Shalom's voice softened. But true manifestation, he said, is not just about you. He pointed toward the lake, where fishermen could be seen casting their nets into the water, trusting that the lake would provide. Ubuntu, I am because we are. What you manifest must uplift not only yourself, but the collective, he said. I thought of Christ's words, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. The greatest manifestations, Shalom continued, are born from faith, service, and alignment with divine will, he said. I took a deep breath, feeling the wisdom settle within me like a seed in fertile soil. So to manifest is to embody the divine, I asked. Shalom nodded. Yes, it is a dance between intention and surrender, focus and flow. The universe, the power of the Almighty, is always listening. When you vibrate at the frequency of love, truth, and faith, your every desire becomes a whisper in the ear of the divine, answered in ways beyond imagination, he said. I closed my eyes, feeling the energy of the moment wrap around me like a sacred veil. I could feel the lake, the trees, the wind, all part of the grand symphony of what I was taking in. I could feel I was not separate. I was a note within the divine song. I turned to Shalom, my heart alight with understanding. Then let us create with wisdom, he smiled. Let us create with love. Chapter 17. Becoming a divine alchemist. The remnants of the night's lessons lingered in my mind, and I could feel it in the air like the last whispers of a fading dream. I checked to see if I could notice it on the lake water, as I have learned over time that water carries all memories of all information in the world. I saw a gentle mist curl over the lake, its silver tendrils gliding across the water's surface, dissolving as the first breath of morning light touched them. The embers of our fire had dimmed, yet their warmth still hummed in the stones beneath us, a quiet echo of the conversations that had shaped the night. The chorus of waking birds added their voices to the hush of dawn, blending with the rhythmic peer of the water against the shore. This looked like the sacred in-between where darkness gave way to light, and knowledge turned to wisdom. Shalom sat engrossed in watching the towering trees whose branches and leaves were swaying as they interacted with the early morning wind. I was still thinking about whether the wind brought good to the tree and was taking unnecessary energy from the tree when I heard his stern voice. Alchemy, Shalom began, his voice carrying the weight of ages, is not merely the transformation of metal, but the transmutation of the soul. The great sages, from the mystics of Kemet to the wandering Sufis, understood that true gold is found in the refinement of the self, he continued. I listened as I felt the morning breeze cooling my skin. But how does one truly transmute suffering into wisdom? How do we turn our wounds into light? I asked, surprising myself in sounding engrossed in mystic wisdom. The alchemy of pain into power. Shalom turned his gaze toward the horizon, where the rays of sunlight were gaining momentum. Every trial is the fire that purifies the soul. Just as the Kemetic initiates walked through the halls of darkness before emerging enlightened, so too must we transform our suffering into strength, he said. He again spoke of Nelson Mandela, a man who endured years of captivity only to emerge as a beacon of reconciliation. His suffering did not break him, it refined him. This is the path of the divine alchemist, to see pain not as punishment, but as the raw material for transformation, Shalom said. I nodded, absorbing his words, and fear. How do we turn fear into love or courage? I asked. Shalom smiled. Fear is the illusion of separation. When you understand that you are not alone, that the divine flows through all things, including you, fear dissolves. He gestured toward the trees. The Akan people of Ghana teach, Sessa, Woe, Subon, transform your character. It is the conscious act of elevating the lower self into the higher. Jesus asked you to repent, to renew your mind and be one with the Father. Shalom echoed, to master alchemy, one must engage in sacred practice, Shalom said. He outlined some of the ancient methods, breathwork and meditation. The breath is the bridge between the seen and unseen. Deep, intentional breathing shifts the body from fear into peace. Reframing the narrative rather than seeing hardships as obstacles. Perceive them as sacred initiations. Forgiveness and compassion. The Buddhists call it metal loving. To free yourself. Bless those who have wronged you. Ascension and the immortality of the soul. Shalom's gaze deepened. Do you know what it means to ascend, to return to the divine? I offered. He nodded in agreement. It is the realization of what you have always been. The Dogon people say, humanity came from the stars and will return when consciousness is fully awakened, Shalom said. He traced a circle in the soil on the ground. In Kabbalah, the tree of life teaches ascension as the journey from Malkuth, the physical world, to Kether, divine unity. In Hermeticism, all is mind. Your consciousness shapes reality. Shalom continued. I exhaled. And how does one achieve the immortality of the soul? I asked. Shalom's voice softened. By mastering the art of release. Detach from the ego. You are not this body, or your possessions, or titles, or belongings. Recognize your eternal nature. Also ensure you honor ancestral wisdom. The Zulu people teach that honoring the ancestors ensures a seamless transition beyond this life. He said, the power of gratitude and divine mastery. Shalom picked up a handful of soil, letting it slip between his fingers. Gratitude, he said, is the highest vibration. The Egyptians knew that a light heart weighed against the feather of Mut, granted passage into the afterlife, he said. He looked at me. What are you grateful for? Shalom asked. I thought for a moment, this wisdom. He besmiled. Then you have already begun the path of divine mastery. Every moment you experience is a gift. Be grateful to the Father, the Source, and you will receive more to your pleasing. Shalom, said Dot, as the sun rose fully over the lake. Shalom's voice carried the real revelation. To master divine alchemy is to transform the self, not escape it. The lotus rises from the mud, not despite it, but because of it, he said. I closed my eyes, feeling the truth settle within. My wounds, my fears, my struggles, they were not burdens but blessings. They were the sacred ingredients of my transmutation. Shalom's final words echoed like a sacred decree. You are not here to suffer. You are here to create. Turn your pain into power, your fear into love, and your darkness into light. This is the work of the divine alchemist, he said, and in that moment I knew I was ready to direct my energy intentionally. Chapter 18. The union with the higher self, serene stillness wrapped around the land, as though nature itself was preparing for a big revelation. The trees stood in quiet reverence, as if their leaves were whispering secrets to the morning breeze. I turned toward Shalom, whose gaze was fixed on the horizon, his presence radiating an unshaken peace. To walk in union with a higher self, he began, his voice smooth as the water's reflection, is to awaken to the truth that separation is an illusion. You are not a mere fragment of creation. You are its living essence, a breath of the divine expressing itself through form, he said. I listened, the weight of his words settling into my being. But if that's true, why do so many feel lost? I asked. Shalom gave a knowing smile. Because we have been conditioned to forget. From the moment of birth, we are taught to look outward for meaning, for validation. But the true path is inward. As you have been telling people in some of your lessons, who teaches a child to eat, drink, sit, crawl, stand, walk, run. There is an internal knowing that is pre-existing. Many traditions speak of this realization, Ori Inu, in Yoruba wisdom, Atman merging with Brahman in Hindu thought, Jesus proclaiming, I and the Father are one. The highest truth has always been within. Shalom, said Dot. The power of silence, stillness, and deep presence. I felt a bewildering respect for him that I could hardly express. Shalom turned his attention to the vast sky. To remember who you are, you must listen to the prayer, silence, to the stillness, to the voice that speaks when all else is quiet. The great sages of every tradition understood this. He emphasized. He spoke of the Yoruba Babalios, who sought wisdom in the whispers of the Orishas. He recalled the Buddha, who sat beneath the Bodhi tree in perfect stillness until enlightenment bloomed within him. He described the Christian desert mystics, who withdrew into solitude to hear the voice of God, even in African spirituality. The great seers retreated to the forests, the mountains, the caves, not to escape the world, but to hear it more clearly. Shalom said. I breathed deeply, feeling the weight of the moment. So silence is the gateway to the divine, I said. Shalom nodded. The Tao Te Ching says, the way that can be spoken is not the eternal way. Words can only point toward truth. They can never contain it, he said. Becoming a master sage and divine creator, the final stage of union with the higher self, Shalom continued, is not about seeking it, is about being. You become the master, the sage, the conscious creator. Life ceases to be something happening to you and becomes something flowing through you, he said intuitively. Yet without effort, I leaned in, eager to understand. How does one reach that level? I asked. Shalom smiled. By embodying these truths in every moment. Mastery over thoughts and emotions. The ancient Egyptian Heka, the power of the spoken word, teaches that thoughts shape reality. A master wields words like a sculptor wields a chisel. Non-attachment and surrender like the great mystics. True masters release the illusion of control and flow with divine will, radiating unconditional love. This is the final initiation to see all beings as reflections of the One. This is Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, the Neteru of Kemet. When you fully align with your higher self, miracles cease to be rare. They become the fabric of your existence, Shalom added. I recalled the Gospel of Thomas. When you make the two one, then you will enter the kingdom, Shalom. Eyes met mine. Heaven has always been within you. Your task is to bring it forth into the earth. That's how you pray to have the will of the Father to be done on earth as it is in heaven. So everything on earth is supposed to reflect what is in heaven, your heaven. Bring forth the highest frequency within you, he said. The eternal unfolding of the divine eye sat quietly connecting that heaven is when we are operating from the most high frequency where everything is possible because we are in knowledge and tuned to our oneness with the Father, the source of all. To unite with the higher self is not an end, Shalom whispered, but the beginning of an infinite unfolding, he added. I nodded, understanding now that spiritual awakening was not a destination, but an ever-deep journey. It never ends, does it? I said. Shalom smiled. No. The more you embody the divine, the more there is to discover. As the African proverb says, wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it, Shalom said, making me burst out with laughter over the imagery of embracing the big tree. I felt the truth stir within me. How could it be so simple that the path was not about attaining something new, but about remembering what had always been? You are already divine. Now live as such, Shalom said. The journey of awakening does not lead to something outside of us. It is a return to what we have always been, like a river flowing back to the ocean. It is not about gaining, but remembering. We have never been separate from the divine. We have only believed ourselves to be, he added. I looked at the sky as I absorbed this, wondering if this is related to the illusion of separation and the great remembrance that I had been hearing about. Shalom knew my thirst for knowledge and quotation, spiritual traditions and books. So he threw them on me to emphasize almost every point. When we remember our divine nature, we cease to be mere participants in creation. We become co-creators, Shalom said. The Gnostic wisdom that states that when you know yourselves, You will understand that you are children of the living Father, Shalom said. I breathed in deeply. This was not just knowledge, it was truth alive within me. With this understanding, Shalom said, comes an invitation to embody your divine nature. He placed his hand on my shoulder. Live as love, for love is the essence of the cosmos. Live as light, for you are the illumination of the universe. Live as wisdom, for you are the knowing made manifest, Shalom said, making feel like I was in the air floating. I closed my eyes, feeling the vastness of what he had said. It is telling as it is humbling to know that all along I am not seeking. The divine I am the divine, awakening to itself, to my higher self. And as I opened my eyes to the endless sky, I knew the journey was awesome. The grand awakening and the final veil, the morning air, carried a crisp coolness as Shalom stood by the water's edge, his gaze fixed on the undulating waves of Lake Albert Muttensich. The golden hues of the rising sun danced across the water, casting shimmering reflections that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. I approached him, sensing that he had something to share, something weighty, something beyond words. Come, he said, gesturing toward a small wooden boat resting put at the shore. His voice was steady, calm, yet filled with an unspoken urgency. Row with me, he said. I hesitated for a moment before stepping into the boat. The wood was worn smooth by years of weather and water, yet it felt sturdy beneath my feet. Shalom stepped in beside me, taking his place at the bow. With a gentle push, the boat glided away from the shore, the water lapping softly against its sides as we drifted further into the lake's embrace. For a while, neither of us spoke. I could hear the rhythmic motion of the boat, the distant cry, by of a bird skimming the surface. The whisper of the wind was as if the whole universe had quieted, waiting for an unfolding. Then, as we reached the center of the lake, Shalom bowed his head, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. The final veil is lifting. He finally spoke, his voice low but resonant. For centuries, seekers of truth have whispered of a time when earth would awaken from its slumber. That time is now, Shalom said. I felt the weight of his words sink into me, and I struggled to clutch tighter the edges of the boat. What does that mean? I asked. Shalom looked up, his eyes reflecting the vast sky above us. I already told you. The world you have known is built on illusion, he said. The illusion of separation, the illusion of limitation, the illusion that humanity is powerless, trapped within a cycle of suffering. These illusions were never Earth's natural state. They were imposed by external forces, by false beliefs, by cycles long perpetuated. But the awakening has begun, and the final veil is lifting. Many people are going to steadily regain their knowledge after remembering their union with the divine and tuning into the ever-available power and love of the Father. Shalom said, The earth as the eternal garden of Edenai gazed out at the endless expanse of water, feeling the enormity of what he was saying. Are we returning to something lost? I found myself asking. Shalom nodded. Not lost, only forgotten. The earth has always been a sacred space, a living testament to divine harmony. Many traditions speak of this: the Garden of Eden, the Golden Age, the primordial land, the Dogon people of Mali, the Kabbalistic mystics, the ancient Kemetic initiates. They all understood that humanity once walked in unity with divine consciousness. Shalom said. I listened, recalling teachings I had encountered along my life path. And now? I asked. Shalom took a deep breath. Now, the bombardment of high-frequency energies, the cosmic shifts, the solar activations, the quickening of your times, signaling the return to this state. But not all are ready. Many cling to the old world, unable or unwilling to let go, he said with no emotion. The great Choisai frowned. So, is there a dividing line? A moment where one must choose? I asked. Shalom nodded solemnly. The great choice is upon us. This is not just another year, it is a threshold. Not because an external event will dictate fate, but because the collective consciousness of humanity is being asked to decide. Will you remain bound to fear, or will you reclaim your divine sovereignty? He asked, not to me in particular. His words reminded me of a passage from Scripture. Deuteronomy 32:19. I murmured, I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life. I had come to learn that all verses in the Bible, as those in other spiritual books, are as alive today as they were when first written. For the universe only dances to the constant song of now, the present. Shalom's eyes held mine. Yes, this is an energetic truth, where you place your focus, your energy, your belief, that is what you become, he said. I inhaled deeply, feeling the messages settle within me. Then how do we step beyond the veil of forgetfulness about our divinity, our ever-present union with the Father? I asked. Shalom smiled. By reclaiming your birthright. Here are some guidelines, he said, extending his hands, as if holding, plus something invisible between them. Mastery of attention. Your attention is your greatest currency. Where it flows, your energy follows. Reclaim it. Focus your attention only on things that serve you, that bring you good and make you feel better. Detachment from the ego construct. You are not your fears, your titles, your conditioned identity. Let go of worldly identities and live at a higher level where you are one with the divine, the ancient of all ages. Inner silence and intuition. The divine speaks in stillness. Meditate, breathe, listen. Sacred sound and frequency mastery. Words shape reality. Use them wisely. Align with sound, music, and the vibrational forces of creation. All cultures have been blessed with music from traditional instruments. Use your traditional music and sounds to retune yourselves. Energetic discernment. Not all that glitters is gold. Learn to feel truth, not just hear it. Attempt to go within yourself for guidance every time you are faced with making a choice. Ask your higher self to show you the way always and to help you decide. activation of higher senses, your spiritual faculties, telepathy, intuition, inner sight are waiting for you to awaken them. Ask for them to awaken when you are in stillness, the final revelation. You are the creator. The boat drifted, carried by the silent current. I felt a deep stillness within me, as though something ancient and eternal had just been stirred awake. There is no savior coming to rescue you, Shalom said, because you were never lost. The idea that you must strive for enlightenment, for salvation, for worthiness, that is part of the illusion. You are already whole, already divine. This is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering. It is about putting back the parts of yourself together as they were in the beginning of your time, he added. I felt the words ripple through me, registering heavily in every cell of my body. So the awakening is not just about the earth changing, I said slowly. It's about us remembering who we truly are. One with the Father, I asked. Shalom nodded. Yes, this is the grand awakening, the reclamation of your role as a divine creator. The earth is not on the brink of destruction, is on the precipice of rebirth, Shalom said. A wave lapped against the side of the boat. The sky had brightened, the golden sun now fully embracing the world around us. I looked at Shalom, feeling profound sense of peace. The choice is yours. The path is clear, he said. I turned my gaze to the horizon, only to feel the boat gaining a lot of momentum, as if it was a speedboat. I turned to look at Shalom, to internalize what he was doing to the boat. Dwell in peace. Businj, you are peace. Shalom is peace. Salam is peace. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, he said, as the boat accelerated at an even faster speed, docking to a calm halt at the shores of what looked like my father's home in Kamata, and my vehicle, which I left over 57 kilometers away, posed right here, near the mango tree in my father's compound. I turned to ask Shalom to inquire how he managed to accomplish this feat. He was nowhere to be seen. My father instead appeared from nowhere. Welcome home, he said, as I was regaining myself to ask whether he knew all we had been discussing with Shalom. I heard a heavy shaking of my whole body. Wake up, 18 ye. It is coming to 8 a.m. You have overslept today. My wife, Grace's voice was clear. I woke up at once, sat in the bed, looked left and right, touched my forehead, my hands, then my legs. What is the matter? She asked, bewildered. It is then I realized this all had been a dream. I closed my eyes to thank the Almighty for yet another day when I am still living life in the flesh. Then it dawned on me. It is February 22nd, 2025, and we had buried my father on January 17th, 2025. It was indeed a dream. What a dream! There is no problem. It is just a grand awakening today, I said to my wife, as I stepped out of my bed to and from a divine realization. Dices, Tier 1 to the loving memory of my father in this world, Ignatius, Becicera, Akiki. also to all seekers ready to enter the knowing and act from it. Amen. About this publication through the lens of storytelling, vivid descriptions, and deep conversations between the wise teacher, Shalom, and an attentive seeker. This book unveils the mysteries of existence, guiding the reader step by step through the process of self-discovery, spiritual alchemy, and ultimate transformation. Each chapter flows seamlessly into the next, mirroring the natural evolution of consciousness as one moves from the shadows of limitation to the boundless light of divine remembrance. In these pages, you will be taken on a journey that transcends time and space. The lessons shared between Shalom and the seeker unfold in sacred landscapes by the flickering flames of a night fire, in the hush of dawn's embrace, on the rippling waters of Lake Albert, and in the quiet spaces of the heart, where true wisdom, peace received. As the seeker embarks on each lesson, so too does the reader, experiencing the unveiling of long-hidden truths through vivid storytelling and deeply reflective dialogue. This publication is not just about knowledge. It is about transformation. It challenges the reader to move beyond intellectual understanding and step into the embodiment of divine consciousness. Each chapter provides practical tools for ascension, from mastering one's energy and thoughts to unlocking higher senses and embracing the fullness of divine power. It presents the grand awakening not as a distant prophecy but as a present reality, an invitation that each soul must accept to reclaim its sovereignty and step into co-creation with the universe. This book is a call to those who hear the whisper of truth within their souls. It is for those who know they are more than what they have been told, who sense the presence of something greater guiding them. It is for the seekers, the dreamers, the mystics, the teachers, and the leaders of the new dawn. Gerald Bassenge has woven this work with love, wisdom, and deep reverence for the sacred traditions that have carried humanity through the ages. This is more than a book, is an initiation, an unveiling, and a call to step into your highest self. From the depths of African spirituality to the profound insights of Eastern mysticism, from the sacred scriptures of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam to the transformative philosophies of Taoism and Hermeticism. This work serves as a bridge between ancient truth and modern awakening. Are you ready to remember? Welcome to the Grand Awakening. About the author, Master Gerald Bassenge, is a sought-after enlightened learning facilitator and visionary, guiding those focused on achieving their greatness on this planet. He is a multi-award winning multimedia journalist, communications specialist, seasoned trainer, entrepreneur, technology developer, and teacher of the truth. He studied mass communication, journalism, and communication at Makerere University and multimedia journalism at the University of California, Berkeley, and is part of the Digital Development Network led by the University of Sheffield. He facilitates the learning of multimedia journalism and digital communication at Makerere University Department of Journalism and Communication, and supports many universities in new media and digital pedagogy training. He is the founder of Ultimate Multimedia Consult, Yaka Digital Network, Yucca Publishers, Educare, Ultimate AI Avatars, and Ultimate Masters. Bussinge is a certified trainer of UMC, Internews Europe, DW Academy, Hague Academy, World Bank, and has consulted widely for many organizations in journalism, media, communication, documentation, and technology, including UNICEF, UNDP, Plan International, Enable, USA, ID, BRAC, World Vision, Uganda Episcopal Conference, Government of Uganda, ACCU, IRC, DW Academy, BKK, FAWE, MasterCard Foundation, among others. He is a dedicated husband, father, Rotarian, and counselor. He is also the author of several publications, including Effective Digital Pedagogy, The Manifestation Mindset, Achieving Success with Digital Learning, Becoming Ultimate Masters, A Century Worth of Top Knowledge, God-Powered Affirmations and Prayers, Media Monitoring Tools and Best Practices, The Laws of the Universe and of Life, Abdullah's Teachings, Manifesting Reality Through Divine Oneness, The Grand Awakening, among others. He can be reached on email, gbusinge@gmail.com. What 2567713241119